week 5 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few wide receivers I looked at off the waiver wire this week. The first guy, Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Boyd right now available in 63% of fantasy leagues. We saw T. Higgins leave the ball game with a rib injury, and it's been a tough year for this Bengal team. 1-3 on the year. Jamar Chase not happy after the game, saying he's been open and they got to get him the ball. And right now, T. Higgins, he could be out with this rib injury. And here, Tyler Boyd's been a guy that stepped up for many seasons for the Cincinnati Bengal team. So the last few games for him, week 3 versus the Rams, 5 catches, 39 yards. In week 4 at Tennessee, 4 catches, 26 yards. So week 5, a good matchup at Arizona, where I think they could get right a little bit is the Cincinnati Bengal team. I don't think they're totally out of it. The next 2 games, in my opinion, are winnable. They just got to adjust the offensive line, and Joe Burrow's got to find a way to get healthier and get the football out a little bit quicker to his wide receivers. So right now, Tyler Boyd, like I said, he could be stepping into that number 2 role in this offense here, where it looks like Higgins can miss time, and he's a top pickup this week off the wire, available, like I said, in 63% of fantasy leagues. The next receiver is Curtis Samuel of the Washington Commanders. So Curtis Samuel, he's always been a pretty decent receiver, that he could play some gadget roles. He could run the football in between the tackles if you need them, a few carries a game as well, and also a deep threat for this Commander team. So the last few games, I know he really hasn't done much. For week 4, he stepped up at Philadelphia in that one. 1 carry, 1 yard with a rushing touchdown, and 7 catches, 51 yards on 8 targets. So right there, they like to run a lot of 3 receiver sets. I know it was a back-and-forth ball game in week 4 at the Philadelphia Eagles, and it went to overtime. But week 5 here, a great matchup versus the Chicago Bears. So obviously can't stop anyone on defense. So right now, Samuel, I know he's out there in 91% of fantasy leagues. I know he's been inconsistent throughout his career. But right now, if you need a wide receiver with a few injuries and a bye weeks coming up here, I think Samuel's a decent ad and available in almost every fantasy league. In 91%, the next wide receiver is Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions. So his suspension got reduced, and this Lion team's been looking for a true number 2 wide receiver this season. And Jameson Williams, we know he had a great college career. Last season, I know the ACL injury was a big thing for him, and he didn't do much coming back towards the end of the season. But he could start playing this week here, and he's available in tons of fantasy leagues. Here's Jameson Williams in 68% of fantasy leagues. So like I said, last season, he only appeared in 2 games, a catch, 41 yards, a touchdown on 9 targets, and he had a 40-yard rush on 1 carry in that one. So right now, he's a dynamic offensive player. It adds to this solid offense over there in Detroit, where you got good players on Ross St. Brown, Sam Laporta having a good rookie year so far, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. So they got a lot of weapons, and to add a guy like Jameson Williams with his speed and take the top off of defense really can help this Lion team of fantasy owners. And like I said, he's out there right now in 68% of fantasy leagues, and one of the better pickups at all positions this week. The next receiver is Michael Gallup of the Dallas Cowboys. So Michael Gallup, a few seasons ago, we saw him have a good season with this Cowboy team, and then they gave him a good contract extension, then ACL. Then last season we didn't see much, and so far this year, the first 2 games he didn't do much, but the last 2 in week 3 at Arizona, 6 catches, 92 yards, 7 targets. 4 versus New England in a ball game that was over pretty quickly by halftime. 5 catches, 60 yards, and 6 targets. So right now, week 5, it's going to be a ball game at San Francisco, where this Cowboy team, they're not going to dominate defensively, where they're going to get off to an early lead and take their foot off the gas. It's going to be a tough ball game, a grinded out type of game, and we know the Niners have had the Cowboys number over the last few seasons here. So right now, tough matchup, no doubt about it, but bye weeks coming in, injuries have happened around the league this week here as well. And right now, Gallup, he's available in tons of fantasy leagues still at 81%. So if you're looking for a receiver as a buy-in, fill-in guy, and a guy who can make plays and starting to get targeted now, 13 targets the last 2 games. Gallup's in there this week in the 5th and final wide receiver I have as a pick-up this week's Terrace Marshall of the Carolina Panthers. So Terrace Marshall, he's been a player that last season emerged a little bit in his rookie year for this Panther team. And rumors are coming out this Panther team, they're trying to get a wide receiver in a deal because they really don't have much. Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Terrace Marshall, Chenault, but none of these guys are really stepping out except Adam Thielen for a couple ball games and making plays. But Terrace Marshall, he came up in this one and he had a good game versus Minnesota. So the last 2 games, he's getting back into it. Here's Marshall in the offense. Week 3 at Seattle, 5 catches, 35 yards, 8 targets. And week 4 versus the Vikings, 9 catches, 56 yards on 10 targets. So the last 2 games, this is definitely not fluky. 18 targets, and he's starting to build a rapport with Bryce Young. And this is going to be another ball game at Detroit where they're going to be trailing and have to throw the football a lot. So right now, Marshall available in 99% of fantasy leagues. He's got big playability, a wide receiver over the shorter corners. And I think he's a guy that could start to break out this season, and we're starting to see it. So right now, while he's available in 99% of fantasy leagues, he's definitely a wide receiver to add this week. So that's a few wide receivers I look to add off the wire in week 5 of the fantasy football season.